Gary, a 2-2 draw. What was your assessment of the game this evening?
Yeah, I think it was, when you split the teams and it's a 90 minutes exercise, so it was a really strong fitness exercise today after a tough week last week. It's going to be a challenge. I think we had Caddy went down injured today. I think Young, Charlie, Cooper went down injured today, Alex Jones went down injured. So when you do that, we knew it was going to be a real stretch. Josh Cogley had to start for us, Don Bernard I think had to start for the other team. So, but that's what it was, and we don't want to do things behind closed doors. We want to get out and play teams and have a real test, and I thought it was a real test tonight. I thought we started quite well. We got balls in behind them with a little bit of quality, and we actually created 4 or 5 chances quite early on in the game. Took one of those chances, perhaps should have took another one of them. And then I think as the game, we conceded a really sloppy goal on the stroke of half time, which was absolutely unnecessary. I don't think it really caused us that much problems up until that point. And then second half, it always becomes difficult. We had to bring Davo off with a tight groin. Then Rostin came off with a bang to the hip. So all of a sudden, before you knew it, you had 5 under-21 players on the pitch. But again, that's what it's about. It's great for them because they can see and test themselves against the type of opposition that they want to be playing against week in, week out if they're going to be footballers. So it was a really interesting exercise. It probably wasn't quite what we had in mind when we set about it. But I think if you look at both the games, it's ended up being, some really good things in it.
Lee Novak got the equaliser for you this evening, and I thought he had a very good game, going both ways, attacking and doing his defensive duties. Yeah,
I thought Novi, was a real bright spark tonight, and he always does that, and he causes you such a problem because, he's not played that many times for us last season, but he's such a great player to have because he works his socks off. Like you say, he played out on the right. He could have easily sulked a little bit, but he was the outlet of most of our good things. And I think Dimmy came into the game more as it went on, but it was a little bit tight for him early on, and maybe trying a little bit too hard to make things happen. Difficult with Penny Malapa up there, obviously just flown in and trained once and playing the game. So again, it probably lost us a little bit of continuity, in all honesty. But I thought the players stuck at it really well, and actually to end up drawing the game against a good opposition 2-2, and like I said, end up with 5 under-21s on the pitch and a couple of trialists. Wasn't a bad evening's work in the end.
About the trialists, what can you give us? What's the lowdown on Malapa, who came in this evening tonight to play? Yeah,
he's a player we've identified. I think 2 or 3 years ago, he's going to be the next big thing in Germany. I think he scored something like 10 goals for the under-21s in 21 games. Had a real pedigree. I think moved to Borussia Mönchengladbach for €3 million. And then just perhaps typical of a young player that's done a lot so soon, just lost his way a little bit. And I think we've contacted Borussia Mönchengladbach and just asked, look, we like him. We've seen lots of videos and lots of clips. I probably watched about 15 of his games. We just felt as though it was worth having a look if we could, and they've been good enough to let us look at him in training for a day, look at him in a game. And I think you can see, he gives you something a little bit different. I think you have to imagine if he was a lot fitter and if he was a lot more up to speed with what we're trying to do. But it was a worthwhile exercise again, having a look. And it was difficult to play Novi up there because he would have obviously played down the middle for us. But I think we're at a point where we've got to do that with 1 or 2 games. And we knew that before this weekend. This weekend is game on. This weekend is going to be starting to really look towards a couple of weeks' time in our first league game. So I think we've got through these games. There's a few walking wounded after tonight, but I'm sure they'll be all the better for it.
And just on the other trialists, you brought Alfie Crooks on. What's the situation there as well?
Yeah, again, Alfie's just one that's been training with the under-21s, and we had a couple of trialists with the other group at Shrewsbury. And I think the aim really was, we hoped that we didn't need any of those players. We hoped we didn't need to use any of the young players today. But before you knew it, Josh Cogley was in, and before you knew it, Don Bernard was in. But Alfie's one that's done okay in training, and quite simply, Charlie Cooper got injured yesterday in training, so we were down to probably a couple of midfielders for us, and obviously we had to use those very quickly in the game, which wasn't the plan. But he's a good passer of the ball. He's been at Villa, up until his age now, which is about 20. He's got good pedigree, so I thought he competed well in there. And again, showed some good character. To end up with him and Liam Truslove in the middle of the pitch could have been very difficult, but they stuck at it fantastically well.